This is the Fight Guy. I'm Guy, and UFC 330 returns to the great city of Philadelphia this weekend. An insanely stacked card. Islam Makhachev is defending his welterweight belt for the first time against Ian Garry, Gillian Robertson, Mackenzie Dern in the co-main event, another title fight. And outside of those two fights, there is not a single ranked fight on this card, including Charles Johnson, Eduardo Chapolin, Mansur Abdul-Malik, Dustin Stoltzfus, Edson Barboza, Chidi, Donte Johnson. Not a single ranked fight on this card. So you could argue it doesn't fucking matter at all. A numbered event in 2026. Absolutely crazy. We're going to break down the entire card, including the fight that just got adjusted. Charles Johnson's opponent, Jose Ochoa, pulled out due to injury. So we're going to get Eduardo Chapolin making his UFC debut on the main card. Some crazy lunacy we're getting out of the UFC this week. I'm containing my emotions here. We'll break down every single fight as usual, starting with the very first fight that doesn't belong on the early prelims, but it's there for some reason, and that's Jeremiah Wells. He's taking on Myktybek Orolbai. I have advantages, disadvantages for every single fight on this card. Let me move my camera, make it a little bit smaller. And yeah, let's get into this. Jeremiah Wells is taking on Myktybek Orolbai, an amazing quality welterweight fight. Surprised we're getting it to open up the prelims, but I'm not going to complain. This will get me watching. Myktybek Orolbai, one of the more consistent, I guess you could say, grapplers in the division. I think he even moved up to welterweight a couple fights ago. I think he was a lightweight. So yeah, Myktybek Orolbai, he's a really good grappler. He can kind of do everything pretty decently, but, you know, he is a land shark. That's where he wants to be. This is an interesting matchup because Jeremiah Wells has a jiu-jitsu base, I believe. He trains out of the Renzo Gracie Philly gym, which is a pretty popular gym. So he's got good grappling, but I just don't think it's going to be on the level of Orolbai. He should bring Jeremiah Wells into deep waters. I think he's going to be pretty gassed, and Orolbai will walk away with a decision win. The last fight against Chris Curtis was not that entertaining. It was pretty boring. A lot of people were upset, expecting a finish from either of the guys, but Orolbai, you know, even though it was boring, it was really impressive to watch him control a veteran like Chris Curtis like that. And if he could do it to Chris Curtis, he could do it to Jeremiah Wells. Jeremiah Wells is 5-2 in the UFC. He's, you know, held his own fairly well, you could say, but I just think with the physical attributes, Jeremiah being a little bit older, he's going to be a little bit slower. He does have the knockout power, don't get it twisted, but Myktybek Orolbai is a literal fucking Neanderthal. Look at this guy's eyes is like a fingernail apart from each other. His literal, he's got like a monobrow, like a cyclops. He's almost going to be a cyclops. If he goes up another division, he keeps growing and evolving. He might be the first cyclops UFC champion. I'm going to go with Orolbai to win a decision here. Should be a very fun fight to start the card. And we'll move on to the next fight. Yet again, another fight which I'm scratching my head at why they have these fights buried so deep on the prelims and we're getting a UFC debut on the main card. But Neil Magny's taking on Ramiz Brahimaj. Ramiz Brahimaj, will start with him. I think he's finished all 13 of his wins, and 12 of them have come by submission. One TKO. So he's never actually knocked anybody clean out before. He's a submission artist. Needless to say, I don't need to explain that much about Ramiz. Outside of that, he does one thing very well, and that's submit people. And Neil Magny does get submitted a lot, you could say, but he's fought everybody. He's fought some of the best submission artists. He's been submitted by some of the best. He's also knocked out some of the best. He's fought everybody. He's got almost, holy shit, almost 50 fights. This is going to be Neil Magny's 47th fight. His 47th pro fight. That's fucking crazy. Yeah, Neil Magny with the reach advantage, just being a veteran, just being more well-rounded. I know he's older. I know he's coming off of that submission loss. Is he coming off of that submission loss? What loss is Neil Magny coming off of? It's gonna bug me if we don't check. Page not found. Of fucking course, page. You know what? I'm going to go with Neil Magny. I think the last fight I remember Neil Magny was him getting subbed by a sweet anaconda choke by Amasov, who also submitted another person who we're going to get to, Joel Alvarez. That's fighting later on this card. But let's get back to what matters. Neil Magny's going to win this fight. I think he'll win this fight via decision. Ramiz all of his wins come by fights that he's finished. So if he's not able to finish Neil Magny, I think early, I think this is going to be like a Neil Magny masterclass. He'll cruise to a decision. Maybe even catch Ramiz when he's tired in the third round and get a TKO. So give me Neil Magny to win this fight or finish it late in the third round. And yeah, I think he'll win the decision. We'll move on to a light heavyweight fight. Rafael Tobias and Lucas Fernando. I've actually went back and forth a good little bit on this fight. I was going with Rafael Tobias. I was going with Lucas Fernando. Went back and forth. And I don't know why it says Lucas Fernando's record is 0-1. He's like 13 and 14 and 3 or something like that. 13 and 3. I'm gonna go with Lucas Fernando to win this fight. He's just a little bit older, a little bit more experienced. Rafael Tobias. I know he's making his UFC debut, but Rafael Tobias was not that impressed in his UFC debut. Noting he didn't. Naragze just had a knockout win last week, and he lost a decision to him. So I guess it aged pretty well. Seems like a solid, new light heavyweight contender in the UFC. So Rafael Tobias to be able to hang in there with him on his UFC debut, you could say good things about that. Now Lucas Fernando, we haven't seen in the UFC yet. I think he's coming over from LFA. He's got a lot of knockouts in LFA. I think he's only got 2 submissions in his career. So it's really just going to be the reach advantage, and can Lucas get his, striking volume going in the first round? I think if he's backing up, or, he's hesitant to start off the fight, I think Rafael Tobias will walk away with it however he wants. I think he's better on the ground. I also think, if he can close the distance, he could land a shot that could put Lucas out as well. So with that being said, with Rafael having more tools to win the fight, I think the reach advantage at the end of the day is really going to be the make or break here. And I'm going to go with Lucas having, about half a foot of reach advantage over Rafael, and being a little bit older, maybe a little more mature, a little smarter with his decision making as the fight goes on. Give me Lucas. Fernando, round 2 knockout. That's going to be the pick. And we'll move on to the regular prelims now. Another fight that it's just like, why is this one on the prelims, but we have some of the main card fights on the main card? It's okay. Nobody's fucking ranked. None of these fights matter, you can argue. Vicente Luque's taking on Dory from Finding Nemo. Tresean Gore, some people call him. Vicente Luque, you guys know him. You guys love him. He's been around forever. He's fought everybody at middleweight. Is he making his middleweight debut? I think he's making his middleweight debut. That might be why he's a plus 105. Give me Vicente Luque to win this fight. Give me the underdog. I know a lot of people are picking Tresean Gore. I know I've been a little bit harder on Tresean Gore than most people have been, I guess you could say, but I'm not easing up on him. I'm going to go hard again on Tresean Gore, and I'm going to pick Vicente Luque to win this fight. I think Vicente Luque's just got more ways to finish the fight. I hope that he's settled into this weight. I don't like the idea of him going up. Well, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah, he can go up. I think he's better than Tresean Gore. He should be able to submit Tresean Gore. If it, I say submit Tresean Gore, but Tresean Gore is actually pretty well rounded. He's got solid wrestling. It's hard to take him down. But if anybody could take him down, I think Vicente Luque can make the fight grimy, push the pace, get Tresean Gore against the cage, and I think Vicente Luque's best chance to get him down is going to be up against the cage, body lock, setting up some kind of trip, and just getting to work from there. Now, Tresean Gore, as a wrestler, I don't know if he's a wrestling base for sure, but he kind of fights like he's got some kind of wrestling base, maybe high school, maybe a little bit of college, nothing crazy. He knows he has enough of a base to not accept positions. A lot of people without wrestling bases, they'll accept the positions, they get taken down, they'll hang out for a second and turtle, or on their knee with the guy on their back. They'll kind of get comfortable in situations where wrestlers are never comfortable. And Tresean Gore tends to pop back up, which that works a lot against jiu-jitsu based guys that need to get you up against the fence to get you down, like Vicente Luque. Even reach. I'm gonna go with Luque to win this fight. I'm gonna go with Luque. He's a veteran. He's got the experience. He's fought a lot of tough guys. Tresean Gore, he started a little bit rocky. Seems like he's found a little more success more recently. His young career, he hasn't been in the UFC that long. But at the same time, this is like a make or break fight for Tresean Gore. You're gonna be 7-5 if you don't take care of business on Saturday. It's a lot of pressure, a lot on the mind. I'm gonna go with Vicente Luque. I'm not overthinking this. He's got more tools. He's fought better guys. He's going up to middleweight. Yeah, that can go one of many different ways. But give me Vicente Luque to win this fight by finish. I don't see him winning this fight on the feet. Like, if this fight stays on the feet 100% of the time, I think Tresean Gore will win this fight via decision. But yeah, or even knockout, honestly. But give me Luque. Give me Luque. Give me some lucky Luque magic. We'll move on to the next fight. This is another fucking fun fight. Like, the prelims are, this would be a really good Apex card, you know? But instead, they just put all like the decent Apex fights early on the prelims, and then ones that don't make sense on the main card. Donte Johnson's fighting Eric McConico. This is a fun fight. Yeah, Johnson's a favorite. I'm going with another underdog. I tell you right now, I'm just picking Eric McConico. I love how active this guy is. I don't have ESPN to reference my fights, but I've been pretty good off the dome. Eric McConico has been very active. I think we've already seen him like 2 times this year. He made a short notice debut. He won the split decision against Cody Brundage, which I believe Donte Johnson's only fight is a split decision win against Cody Brundage in the UFC. So they're like Brundage brothers. They're like related because they have weird wins over one of the weirdest guys in the UFC, and that's Cody Brundage. But yeah, back to what matters. Eric McConico, he's really resilient. I have not seen this guy quit. He'll take damage. He'll be in bad positions with 4 minutes left in a round, 3.5 minutes left in a round, just on his back. Like, he'll fight out of any position. He'll fight any. He's really tough, and you're gonna need that if you're fighting Donte Johnson. Donte Johnson is gonna give everything he has basically to try to knock you out in the first round. From what I understand, I believe he does have a pretty good wrestling base, even though we don't really see it. He tries to just knock guys out in the first round. In his fight against Cody Brundage, he looked incredibly terrible. In my opinion, he was flat-footed. Like, I was screaming it out. Like, so he was not moving his feet. He was flat-footed against Cody Brundage. I thought Cody Brundage was going to knock him out. Donte Johnson just emptied his gas tank early in the fight because he usually gets an early finish. And later in the rounds, when things get difficult, that's really when, you find out a lot about the fighter that you're rooting for. You know what I mean? If you've ever been hoping for a fighter to win a close fight, it gets to the third round and they're just not executing on the minimal things that they need to execute on. They're giving up positions. They're taking deep breaths in positions that they shouldn't be in, and they should just get back up. Donte Johnson shows me all the wrong things when the fight goes the distance. That's what I saw with the Cody Brundage fight, and for that reason, I am picking Eric McConico. I love the value on him too. He's what is he, plus 195, almost a plus 200 underdog. I think this is more of an even fight. If Eric McConico survives the first round, I think he wins this fight. I'll just leave it there. I think the sports books are wrong on these last two. So we'll move on to another fight. Another fight, it's just like, why the fuck are all these fights buried on the early prelims? Jalin Turner's taking on Kaue Fernandes. Kaue Fernandes, I believe the last time we've seen him was when he decimated Harry Harwick's leg in his UFC debut in September of last year. Jalin Turner, he's back from retirement. He's coming back from retirement. He retired in December last year. A lot been going on his mind mentally, which is typically, of course, obviously it's a bad sign. You hate when people are going through mental shit, but, fighting, you need to be so dialed in, so focused. You can't be distracted. You can't be wishy-washy. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the door. And Jalin Turner's kind of been a lot that. All 15 of his wins come by finish. I think he's got like 4 submissions. The rest are knockouts, something like that. He has got the most insane frame for lightweight. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. He's going to be 6 inches taller than Fernandes. Not going to be able to kick Jalin Turner around like he did Harry Harwick. This is a completely different kind of opponent, deadly opponents, fought some of the better guys in the lightweight division right now. He's finished a lot of them as well. He's also lost some fights that he shouldn't have. When I talk about Jalin Turner, I talk about some of the worst fight IQ I've ever seen in my life. That has no finishing instinct. The finishing instinct that he does have is completely backwards, but I'm still going to pick him. He's my dog. I like Jalin Turner. This could be one of the better fights of the night. Honestly, this could be fight of the night if this does happen to go decision, which Jalin Turner would lose. But the pick's Jalin Turner via knockout. Technical knockout, I think. Last fight on the prelims, let's get into it. Chidi Njokuani's taking on Joel Alvarez, who's taking this fight on short notice. It doesn't really scare me that he's taking it on short notice. I think he's just got more tools to finish the fight than Chidi. Chidi, if you get him, you can pretty much submit Chidi whenever you want, as long as he's not standing up. Now, with that being said, he has an insane Muay Thai base. He's got a really good Thai clinch, front kicks up the middle. Doesn't matter who you are. You could be Islam Makhachev and get caught by Chidi. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Joel's going to get caught by Chidi. I think, he could strike with Chidi if he wants. He could take Chidi down against the fence. He could take Chidi down in the open and submit him whenever. So the pick is Joel Alvarez. to win via submission, although I could see him getting, a finish by TKO. Maybe Chidi doesn't want to give up his back and just accepts mount and is just like eating elbows and trying to time him, and just the ref steps in there. Unless it's Herb Dean, he might let it go. But Joel Alvarez is the pick here by submission. Not going to overthink it. It's going to be a very fun fight while it lasts. We'll move right on to the main card. 40-year-old Edson Barboza is opening up the main card in a lightweight fight against Esteban Ribovics. Edson Barboza, 10 years older, 40 years old, lost 3 fights in a row going into this fight. He is, 2-3 in his last 5, I believe. Still going to look like a jacked 25-year-old when he steps out there on Saturday. Edson Barboza literally has some of the best genetics I've ever seen. 40 years old, he'll look 20. Like I said, he'll walk out there, you won't even be able to tell. With that being said, I think if he loses this fight, this might be the last time that we see him. Maybe one more time, maybe he fights in Brazil and retires. That would be nice. They stuff him on an undercard in Brazil. But yeah, Edson Barboza, one of the better kickboxers. Edson Barboza's name comes up when we talk about leg kickers, when we talk about guys who can really control the distance. Especially some of the better guys in the UFC right now probably looked up to early days Edson Barboza and watched him fight 10, 15 years ago, and it really built their styles off of him. But just at this age, the durability, he gets cut easily. He can get submitted. He doesn't have the best grappling, but his ability to keep the fight standing, his wrestling defense is better than his overall ground game, I'd say. So Edson Barboza is always a fun watch. There's definitely going to be blood here. I hope this goes to the decision, but I'm going to pick Esteban Ribovics to knock out Edson Barboza in the second round. I'm picking a lot of second round knockouts because I'm like, he could get Edson out in the first, but I could also see him just hurting Edson really bad, and there just being like blood dripping down his face when he's sitting on his stool going into the second round, and I think Ribovics can get it done there. Everything you need to know popped up here on the graphic. I got the advantages, the disadvantages. And the pick here, like I said, is Esteban Ribovics to get the knockout win in the second round over Edson Barboza. Shit fight to put on the main card, but to open up the main card. But if you thought that was bad, we move on to the next fight on the main card. Mansur Abdul-Malik's taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. I talk bad about that. It's really not a bad fight. I do think Mansur Abdul-Malik could be ranked in middleweight, but he's coming off of his first loss, which I believe was a knockout loss in the third round. Very tough fight. To Yusri, I forgot how to say his last name, starts with a B. The guy from the Netherlands who fought Alex Pereira, trains with Alex Pereira now at Glover's, Teixeira's gym in Connecticut, but insane kickboxer. Yusri Belgrade or something like that. Very fun fight. Just a masterclass. Really good performance. We saw a lot of toughness from Mansur Abdul-Malik. A lot of guys would have just stayed down in many different situations in that fight. Mansur Abdul-Malik really weathered the storm. Learned a lot from his first loss, and I think he's going to bounce back hard here and finish Dustin Stoltzfus in the first round. Now, with that being said, I've heard Dustin. I know people that know of Dustin personally. I know people that have trained with Dustin. And they're actually they have a lot of good things to say. Despite his record, he's a lot better than his record. This is coming from me and not even them. He's had a lot of fun fights. I think the 2 wins in his last 5 are over formidable opponents. So, Dustin Stoltzfus, I think he's tough. I think he hits really hard, but he's also susceptible to being hit pretty hard. And I think Mansur Abdul-Malik's going to find the switch. That's going to be the pick here. We'll move on. It's not even, the prelims are like more difficult to break down. We have closer fight. Like, look at this, minus 650, minus 575 to open up the main card. Like, why don't you put some of these more balanced fights that have equal weight? It makes no sense to me, but whatever. We'll move on. We'll move on to the third fight. This is breaking news, actually. This has just been announced like an hour ago. This is why I wait to do my predictions later in the week than earlier, because people just want to get them done, and there's always replacement fights, and people just don't care, but I care. This is a short notice replacement. Eduardo Chapolin is coming in on 4 days notice to fight Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson was supposed to fight Jose Ochoa. He's pulled out due to injury, I believe. They're keeping it on the main card. Fuck it, I guess. Charles Johnson taking on Eduardo Chapolin, who's making his UFC debut. Give me Charles Johnson to win this fight. I don't even need... I have notes here for you. You could see, Eduardo Chapolin, the advantages, disadvantages he's going to deal with. But at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to have shit for Charles Johnson. And this is going to be a catchweight bout. Charles Johnson It's the weight cut's not going to be as strenuous on him. That's going to be really big. I think it's going to be a bigger advantage for Johnson than it's going to be for Chapolin, who's got to try to make weight on short note. I don't know what the catch weight's going to be. I could check. I think it's going to be 130. I think it's going to be 130, so we'll keep it there. Picks Charles Johnson, round 2 knockout. Round 2 knockout's happening in the second round. Probably the first round, but we're going to stick round 2 knockout with Charles Johnson. We move on to the co-main event. Finally, after all these fights, we get to the first fighters that are ranked. And they're not even men. There's only 2 ranked males on this entire card. That is crazy. Mackenzie Dern's taking on Gillian Robertson. I've been back and forth in this fight a lot. I like both of these girls. Mackenzie Dern, we'll start with her. First off, just the fact that Mackenzie Dern got a title shot is not talked about enough. She got a title shot after 2 wins over like Amanda Lemos, and I can't even remember the other chick's name. Gillian Robertson, however, has got some momentum. She's won all of her past 5 fights. She might be the only girl in the division that's got grappling close to the level of Mackenzie Dern's. I don't think it's going to be as good. I don't think her submission threat is as deadly as Mackenzie's, but, you know, this is a high-level jiu-jitsu fight, pretty much, with strikes. This is a high-level combat jiu-jitsu fight. I think we're going to spend half this fight on the ground. There's some fights where, you know, a submission guy, grappling cancels out. We're going to see a lot of fight on the feet. I don't think this is going to really be like that. I think, you know, it's really going to be what girl decides to, you know, take the risk to get a better position first is pretty much what it's going to be. Punch, punch, you know, jab, jab, cross, you know, level change, jab, jab, double leg. Oh, she got her down to, she's in top half guard. That's what the fight's going to be. It's going to be one of those, like, you know, both girls, you know, taking turns at getting better positions on the ground and dealing damage. I don't think it's going to be a super interesting fight. Well, I say that. I think it's going to be interesting, but I don't think it's going to be like a dynamic, you know, moments on the feet, moments on the ground, momentum shift, momentum shift. I think it's just going to be one of those fights where 21 minutes is going to be on the ground, and it's going to be kind of hard to kind of gauge, well, okay, Gillian had 2 minutes of control time in the first, but Mackenzie had 1:30, but she had a submission attempt. Who wins that round? It's going to be one of those. It's not going to be, you know, yeah. So with that being said, I really want to pick Gillian Robertson to win this fight. I do think that, you know, when Mackenzie Dern does not have the 100%, I don't know, I say that, but with the Verna Jandiroba fight, she didn't. Fuck, I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern. At the end of the day, man, she's been through a tough divorce, and she's got the belt. She's won jiu-jitsu world tournaments a few different times in the gi and without the gi. I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern to win this fight, defend the belt. I'm not going to pick a Canadian bitch to beat Mackenzie Dern. That's the UFC's ass. She has the best ass in the UFC. It's just, it'd be un-American of me. Main event, Islam Makhachev's taking on Ian Machado Garry, in the only 2 fighters being ranked on the entire fucking card with genitalia, with male genitalia. Well, at least Islam Makhachev has male genitalia. I'm not really sure Ian Garry's situation. He's been acting very funny since he's got to the UFC, even before the UFC, really. His wife's 14 years older than him, but that doesn't matter, so we're not going to mention that in the breakdown. Islam Makhachev is going to be his first title defense in the welterweight division after beating the brakes off of Jack Della Maddalena. Not as bad as Carlos Prates did, might I add. Speaking of Carlos Prates, Ian Machado Garry was literally crawling away from him on all fours for 1:30 to end their 5-round fight. Where was that? In Kansas, I think. In Kansas. Was that in Kansas? Or I think it was UFC Des Moines, so Iowa. Yeah, Islam Makhachev is going to win this fight. I know a lot of people are saying Ian Machado Garry is going to pull off the upset here. Absolutely not. Yo, fuck this guy. Islam Makhachev can't buy into any of the antics during the fight. He can't be doing... Ian Garry, I've talked about it before. He did the shit with Carlos Prates, and Carlos Prates, it took him too long to figure this out. You land a good shot on Ian Garry, or he, you know, like, he blocks well, he'll, like, smile and like, glove touch with you. Slow you down. Kind of like, just... Don't engage with that shit at all. When Ian Garry smiles and goes to glove touch you, hit him with a fucking straight. Hit him with a straight from South Philly. Islam Makhachev's going to ragdoll Ian Machado Garry. Now, the longer this fight goes, if this does go to decision, of course, I see Islam winning, but I could see Ian Garry having 1 or 2 really nice rounds. 1 or 2 rounds where he really, like, shuts down Islam's game plan to a certain degree that a lot of people didn't expect. With that being said, Islam Makhachev is going to take Ian Garry's got long limbs. His legs are long, his arms are long. While, if you're a good grappler with long limbs, that's a nightmare. But if you're a good grappler and you're fighting somebody who you're a much better grappler than, and that person has long limbs, it's really easy to kind of use those limbs to just like it's easy to bend them up. It's easier to grab an arm for an arm bar when the motherfucker's arm's 3.5 feet long. You get what I'm saying? It's easier, not that he's a leg locker, but if he's heel hooking or straight ankle locking Ian Machado Garry and his fucking foot is a goddamn, jet ski handle, it's easier to get a bite on it. Now, there's a lot you can argue you can play devil's advocate. We can argue back and forth pros and cons, but at the end of the day, I think Islam being a much better grappler, much better wrestler, and Ian Machado Garry just naturally not only not being as good of a grappler, not even nearly in the same fucking tier, just being the physical attributes that he does have, while it will help him in the striking, it's going to hurt him in the grappling. So I'm going to pick Islam Makhachev to submit Ian Garry in the second round. That's been the theme of this prediction video. I think we're going to get a lot of finishes overall. I think a lot of the finishes are going to be in the second fucking round. Islam Makhachev, this is just not a personal fight. It's got to be strictly business. You cannot fuck around with Ian Garry. Don't give him any ammunition for when the fight's over. He can go sit down in the chair with a swollen face and say, "Yeah, I won. I won a round. I won that in the second round. I had Islam scared." No, fuck that shit, dude. Get easy work of it. Get Garry out. I don't want to see Garry smiling in rounds 3 or rounds 4 or rounds 5 of a championship fight in Philadelphia. I want to see Ian Garry lose everything. I want to see him get mugged in the octagon. That's the Philly experience. That's the Philly pick. Islam Makhachev, second round submission. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Drop a comment if I'm wrong about any of these picks. I don't think I am. This is probably going to be perfect predictions. I might get one fight wrong. Check back here on Sunday, see how I did. But I'm the Fight Guy. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.